Out guys, I'm back with my video response to episode 264 and another fine episode there from you guys, and very special because it's driven to bliss. I've been waiting for this album to come out, and I was wondering what people would basically have for a song, because it's so vast out there. The topic is actually quite broad, because to me it was about putting out a song that makes you get pumped to drive. Like when you're driving, and it's just like Pipe said, if you're driving, you're so into the music, you look down, you're doing 20, 30, sometimes 40 over the speed limit, and you're like, you know, I better turn this song off or I'm going to lose my license. That is what a driving song is to me. But other people have got a different story. People think, you know, cruising, you'd be going on a road trip, some relaxing music, and there's quite a variety on there. Which is really, really cool. I really like the album. I just finished listening to it. I listened to it all the way through in the episode, and then I've been listening to it on the way to and from work, on the train rides in and so forth. So I've got a pretty good idea of what everyone was trying to do there, and I just have to say that people have really, really raised the bar this time around. You know, going back to the previous albums and hearing the musicianship and even the quality of recording is so much better, and I don't know whether that's because people have just gotten better with more experience, or because of technology and things like that. I think it's a bit of both, and it's a really well produced album. Jan did a fantastic job with mastering it. All the tracks are really nicely set out with their volume levels, and there are actually 2 tracks on the album, which will be, if I have a look at the track list, I think it's Driven an Open Car. When I was listening to that sort of the first time on my MP3 player, dare I say iPod, I was a bit dazed, you know, going to work, kind of half asleep because I get up so early in the morning, and it sort of occurred to me that that was sort of one track. Like, I thought that it was one track. Like, the vocals are a little bit different here. I thought that was really interesting how you put those tracks together. And it took about the second or third time to listen to it, so I thought, hang on a second, these are different tracks by different people. But I like the arrangement, and the final track, the slower one, sort of mellows out for the album, and it was really, really cool. But what I really like is the album cover, Driven to Bliss. That's exactly what I pictured the album cover should be. Exactly like that, a highway, cruising down the highway. It's great, really, you know, really subtle but straight to the point, and gets the message out there of what this album's all about. And I do like the back of the cover as well. It's sort of got the parchment there, and the film, I guess you call it, sort of real, old sort of video reel film going across. That's pretty cool stuff. So great album design there, great mastering, Jan, and yeah. So I just did a kind of brief review, so I don't keep rambling on about stuff, but I'll put that in text underneath this video here, and I'll actually change this angle now. So I'm pretty sure you guys are kind of sick of looking at me like this. I'll keep this one short, guys, but in the episode, PT talks about something he did as a teenager, which they get into their parents' cars and drive around some street they drove around, which is basically what I guess what a lot of teenagers did as well. You know, you sort of cruise, you get your license for the first time, you get that bit of freedom. That bit of freedom really, really sets you apart. You know, you're out of the house, you don't have your parents to watch over you. You know, you're sort of free, you can do what you like, so to speak. Interesting about that, I wanted to tell a story about what it was like when I was a teenager. This was a long time ago, but when I was around 16, 17 or 18 years old, the main place to go was it was like a town, 2 towns away, a few suburbs away, around 20-minute drive or 15, 20-minute drive. And there's this street, it was called High Street, and people would just drive up and down this road. And this street was in between, there was a lot of shopping, sort of little shopping centres, or shopping, we call it shopping centres, like a shopping strip, a lot of cafes and that sort of thing, a couple of bars and a few nightclubs, that sort of thing. It was kind of a longish road, and you do this loop, you go around and then you drive back. And I just remember sitting there at a cafe or something, and people would have these really, really done-up hot cars. Like, a lot of cash has gone into, well, the look of these cars. I'm not sure about the engines. A lot of them sound like they were standard, but They just cruise past, and they just constantly cruise past these awesome cars, and you just sit there, and that was the show, and that was cool. And when I got a car, well, when I got a proper working car, because I had a few bombs before this bomb I'm about to talk about now. If anyone from Australia knows, or I guess Japan, I had a Datsun 1983 Bluebird. Now this is like a family sedan sort of thing, right? However, mine was a little bit different. It had a high-performance engine in it, put mag wheels on it, had a body kit on it, which was more of a flare kit back in those days. It had a half-decent stereo in it, which was a take deck where you took out the whole stereo to take it with you, which I didn't take out. I didn't think what the problem with that was. There's nothing like an amplifier in here and that hiss from the tape that you've dubbed so many times in your car. So I had this car, and you know what? It was an absolute piece of crap. It was rubbish. It really was. But it was mine. And it worked for a little while until I ended up pumping a lot of money into it, replaced the engine with another high-performance engine, and it was just trouble. You know, one thing would go, replaced with another performance parts. Nobody wanted to touch it because it was done up. Nobody wanted to fix it properly because they were too scared, because it was different. But I used to take that car, same thing, I'd drive up and down High Street, just drive and cruise with my friends in the car. So had this sort of done-up, oldish car with poo brown interior, mind you, the ugliest interior I've ever seen in my life. But I did have a massive exhaust on it, so it was super loud. I used to cruise down there, do a few burnouts around the corner, and interestingly enough, though, before that, this is about 5 years before I had my own sort of car to cruise around. When were we? We must have been maybe, I don't know, 13, 14. One of my friend's cousins was a little bit older, and he'd drive us around every now and then. And we'd go to this place in the back of Penrith called the Nepean River in New South Wales, and it was like something out of the movies. There were all these nice old done-up cars, like anything from, you know, old Mustangs to Chargers, old Rotaries and things like that. And they would literally sit there and park up on this street, and there was like a river. Literally, it was a river, and then this long strip of road that would go across with trees and sort of thing on either side. And they would drag up and down there. And then they stopped doing that because the cops came. It was like out of a movie. It was amazing. And then we used to hang out at this river as well. When they stopped the dragging, but you could go there, and people would just park their cars there, but they wouldn't drag anymore. Although these days there's an 8 p.m. curfew on it. But thinking about this album, that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of those type of days. It was back into the days when I was really into punk, and I used to blast some punk out of the old Datsun Bluebird driving down the road. But here's a funny thing: when I think about that car, listening to the album, think about back in those days as a teenager. You know, you drive around the strip, or you park at McDonald's, pop the bonnet of your car. Yeah, look at my worked engine. Look at my dodgy twin SUs that I got to tune every week because they're crap. But one thing I remember which happened, I just finished school. I got my car, and I think this was the time when I got the second engine in it, the second worked engine. And I was sitting at a set of traffic lights, and there was this guy next to me that pulls up in this sort of old clunker. And he went to my school. I didn't really talk to him. There was a few years below me, maybe a year below me, I don't know. I didn't really talk to the guy. He seemed to know me. So he starts revving up his car. So I'm like, all right. So I start revving mine up. And I knew, like, every Friday night on the way home, there's always police set up. It's like a traffic lights, and then you go for about maybe, I don't know, maybe a quarter mile, and then there's a hill that goes down, and the police are always at that hill. So anyway, so I rev up my car, and I let it rip in first gear. So I'm just like flying in first gear into second, then I sort of backed off a bit, and this guy just flew like he just took off, and he flew straight past me. He didn't really put two and two together that I've slowed down. I'm not really racing him anymore. And then as I approach up the top of this hill, I see him pulled over by the police. And then I saw him a couple of weeks later, and he lost his license because he was on a provisional license. But yeah, no, I can definitely relate to that, PT. But I've talked way too much about this. So guys, thanks again for the great episode. Thank you to everyone that contributed to this. Luckily, I had a very, very small part in it. Beyond to means I couldn't control at the time is why I didn't do a track. Hopefully I'll be on the next album. But guys, fantastic album, everyone. Great effort. I thoroughly enjoy the album. I'll be listening to this for a little while. More on my commutes to and from work on the long train ride. And yeah, bliss on.